Hi all, Wolf Lord Rho here. So let's consider this the Ferrus Manus entry of the Where Is Primarch series. I was considering just doing a real short upload. He's dead, yep, dead as a dodo. But that was until I stumbled across something very, very interesting. It's almost a throwaway line I nearly carried on past until I kind of went, hang on a minute, did he mean what I think he meant? So, before I continue any further, spoiler warning to begin. There will be general Horus Heresy spoilers, and very specifically from the novels Master of Mankind and the short story The Board Is Set. As always, I really recommend you read these for yourself first. Not only do you get the most enjoyment out of them that way, but we also help to support the great Games Workshop and Black Library. I've spoken many times about Master of Mankind before. Whether you love that version of the Emperor or you don't, it's a must read. But let me tell you, the short story The Board Is Set is also an absolute must read. It's fantastic. If you enjoy the Emperor and Malcador moments like I do, then you need to get this. I am definitely going to be covering this more in some other uploads very soon because, oh man, there is so much to discuss. There really is. But with that said, let's jump straight in. Ferrus Manus, Primarch of the Iron Hands Legion. As we know, Ferrus died in the initial stages of the heresy at the Isstvan massacre. Having rebuked his brother Fulgrim's offers of joining the heresy, Ferrus and his Iron Hands were one of the no less than 7 loyal legions instructed by the newly appointed commander of the Imperial Army, Rogel Dawn, to destroy the traitors at Isstvan. Ferrus, renowned for his temper, convinced his fellow brothers Vulcan and Corax to begin the attack as soon as they arrived, with reinforcements only a matter of hours away. Unfortunately, this was to be Ferrus's undoing, because as we know, the reinforcements were secretly traitors too, and their arrival doomed the Gorgon. And as his sons were slaughtered around him, he fell to the blade of his brother Fulgrim. However, this was not the last we have seen of dear Ferrus. During the war in the Webway, the Emperor of Mankind entered the battle alongside his custodies and literally started throwing holy walls of flame across the battlefield. It's an absolute goosebump tingling moment. It really is. If you haven't checked out my previous uploads on it, then be sure to go check them out. It's a really epic scene. But during this fight, the Emperor actually summons fiery spectres of fallen loyalists to bring his wrath upon the enemy once more. And leading these angels of fire is none other than Ferrus Manus, the loyal son serving his father in spirit once more. And like I said, not only is it an absolutely epic moment to read, but it's also a very poignant moment, with the Emperor summoning his fallen son. With Ferrus's dying so early in the heresy, we didn't get to see as much of him as with the rest of the Primarchs. Only getting some short stories set back in the times of the Great Crusade, but it appears that Ferrus was one of the closer Primarchs with his father the Emperor. If we take this as an example, but not only this, we see a great scene of Ferrus with his father the Emperor in the short story Mercy of the Dragon, in which the Emperor is introducing Ferrus to his newfound brother, Vulcan. So it may not be a surprise the Emperor is fond of Ferrus when he appears to be one of the earliest Primarchs found. So with that in mind, let us move on to the short story The Board Is Set. Now this story is set just before the beginning of the Siege of Terra novels, and in this novel Malcador and the Emperor sit down to play a strategy board game, which in essence is the events of the Horus Heresy itself, with Malcador playing the War Master and the Emperor playing, well, himself. and they each have the Primarchs as their members of their team, just under different symbolic names. The Emperor, for example, is referred to as Revelation in this. Now, like I said, I will go over this in a couple of different uploads because it's such a great little interaction. I really enjoy the glimpses we get of the Emperor and Malcador together. Some of the best moments for each of them throughout the entire lore, as far as I'm concerned, where we truly get to see the real Emperor and real Malcador. But during this game, something very interesting happens in the following passage. Frustrated, Malcador snatched up the perfection and used it to sweep aside the Iron General. The opposing piece tumbled, the head crowned with sunbeams rolling across the board. Clumsy, said Revelation. He picked up the two transmorphic pieces and set them back in the wooden box beside the board. Perhaps I will fix that later, when I have some time. Now, the first time I read that, I thought nothing of it. Okay, yeah, he's just going to fix the models. Then I went back and read it again. Perhaps I will fix that later when I have some time. Now, the Emperor never says anything without thought, and he always talks with a larger meaning. So when he says perhaps he will fix that later when he has some time, I am in no doubt that that is a reference to the actual Ferrus Manus' death at the hands of Fulgrim. And there's only one way to fix that, of course, to bring him back to life. Now, of course, many will say this is a leap, but it's really not. And I certainly don't think it is. As I stated, the Emperor's conversations are always left to our interpretation. His plans always grander than the simply obvious. So the Master of Mankind referring to fixing the model of Ferrus, fixing that later when he has some time, possible, but doubtful. It is far more likely the Emperor is subtly saying he plans to work on bringing Ferrus back. But what of the clumsy reference? Again, it has more than the obvious meaning. Clumsy from Malcador for knocking over the model, but then we look at the larger interpretation. Clumsy from Ferrus from rushing into the situation and getting himself killed, or even possibly clumsy from the Emperor for not seeing that would happen, which is why he feels the need to bring Ferrus back if he can. It's a really great discussion point. Why does the Emperor feel the need to try and bring Ferrus back? A father's loss for a son? Guilt? Or missing a useful tool which will be all the more needed after this heresy? We have seen before the Emperor of Mankind summon the spirit of Ferrus Manus to fight for him when he was fighting the hordes of demons in the Webway. Could it be beyond the realm of possibility for the Emperor to bring Ferrus back from the dead completely? Initially, you'd have to say, no, he can't do it. Otherwise, he would have just done it. However, let's look at the Emperor's comment. Perhaps I will fix that later when I have some time. So it's not an easy thing for the Emperor to do, but he at least feels it's possible. So the question is how? How would he do it? Of course he could begin another Primarch project of sorts and create another Ferrus. We have seen Fabius Biles attempt at cloning before, even creating a perfect clone of his gene father Fulgrim, who even appeared to have the memories of his former self. So perhaps the Emperor could create a clone of Ferrus. This is the engineer of the Primarchs themselves, the greatest scientist the galaxy has ever seen. So if Fabius can manage to clone the Primarchs, I'm pretty sure the Emperor could. If he could summon a spirit of Ferrus with a mere thought, could he even use his powers to bring Ferrus back truly? We know the Primarchs are partly of the warp. There are none more powerful in that realm than the Emperor. Even the Chaos Gods fear what he can do. But he's stuck on the golden throne now, I hear you cry. And yes, you are right. So that obviously was not part of the plan. However, as we know, Guilliman has referenced his belief that the Emperor may be more powerful now than ever. His words were like conversing with a star. If the Emperor thought it may be possible to bring Ferrus back with his psychic powers, then it is definitely still possible now. And with the Emperor once more acting across the Imperium for the first time in 10,000 years, it could well be possible that an unexpected Primarch could make a return. But what do you guys think? Do you think it's possible? How do you think the Emperor could do it? Why do you think he wanted to do it in the first place? Are you against it? I know a lot of people out there feel like you should never bring back a dead Primarch as it cheapens their deaths. And that's a fair point. Personally, that's not my belief, because I just love Primarchs and I love the thought of getting more lore on all of them. But that's just me. What are your thoughts on Ferrus? Like him or hate him? I've always kind of liked Ferrus Manus, and I can't quite put my finger on why. He's not always been one of the best written Primarchs, coming across as stubborn and foolhardy in virtually every story he's written in. But there's just something about him that I like. The artwork of Ferrus Manus' Primarch book is absolutely awesome. Like all of the Primarch book covers, they are some of the very best pictures of the Primarchs we get. But that picture alone of Ferrus makes me want to have an Iron Hands Force. It just exudes the character of the Primarch. And like I said before, the snippets that we are getting to see of Ferrus from the past are really showing a really good connection with the Emperor, which was not something that I really anticipated. But anyway, that's it for today. As always, drop your comments down below, guys. I love reading them and interacting with you all. And as always, a huge thank you to all my subscribers. Your support really means a lot to me, it truly does. And if you're new, then please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. If you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.